I don't know about you guys, but I really sincerely miss the option that people used to have of completely disappearing without a trace, being able to just change your identity, get on a Greyhound bus, and never be heard from again. Probably go to New Mexico. Most of the time, you go to New Mexico. However, I think it's a privilege. I would go so far as to say it's a right that has been taken from us by this increasingly strict surveillance state we live in. But we're going to go a little bit down memory lane here, a little blast from the past, from a time where you actually could disappear. It's a story about a guy named Bum Farto. Now, born Joseph Farto, he was a Floridian firefighter, drug dealer, and all around just crazy, wacky character. He was born in 1919, the son of two Spanish immigrants who owned a restaurant together. Now, Joseph, before he earned his iconic nickname, growing up in Key West, Florida, they lived right behind old Fire Station 1. So I guess out of boredom or something, or just a natural attraction to the fire station, he started hanging around the fire station. And I guess he would ask for stuff all the time, like candy or cigarettes or I don't know what exactly, but he was always trying to bum stuff, is what I'm getting at. So the firefighter started calling him Bum, probably unaware of his last name. So it just worked out perfectly that way. So Bum Farto, he was kind of a rascal. At 10 years old, he managed to sneak onto one of the fire engines right before it got sent on a call, and they didn't realize he was in there until it was too late. So that was his first experience, being a firefighter. So he was definitely known to bend the rules of society a little bit. So Bum Farto, he's growing up. He's in his early teens. His father dies in 1937, and he decides, I'm just going to drop out of school. I have no one to, seek approval from anymore. I'm just going to be me. It's Bum Farto time now. Everyone's living on my time. So he got some odd jobs, including an ambulance driver for a funeral home. But he still had this obsession with firefighting. So he continued to hang around the fire station. And eventually he became a volunteer firefighter. So throughout the years, he worked his way up all the way to fire chief from being a volunteer firefighter. So this took quite a while. In 1963, he actually became the fire chief. And he was really, really good at the job. He basically whipped that fire station into tip-top shape, and he was a pretty beloved member of the community. Everyone loved him. He was said to be very funny, very charming, very large personality. I guess a colorful person, you would say, like literally a colorful person. He wore bright red suits constantly. He was obsessed with gold jewelry, and he drove this neon green Cadillac around, which is just wild. He's like the Joker combined with like an Italian mobster, but he's living in Florida. It's just amazing. And he looks exactly how you would picture Bum Farto to look. Like, look at a picture of him. Yeah, quite the nose on that guy. So would it surprise you to learn that this guy was kind of, like I said, bending the rules of society a little bit? And probably not. I wasn't surprised at all. So basically, he got in trouble for using misappropriating funds of the fire station. He was like forging checks, and he was doing this thing, which I don't even know how he pulled this off. He must have been a real smooth talker, because he was getting his subordinates to take out personal loans and just give him the money. So basically he got put on suspension twice from his job as fire chief, and they just kind of welcomed him back. They were like, let bygones be bygones. You're fine. he did have some friends in high places in the local Key West government. By the way, I think this is all happening in Key West. I forgot to mention that. Key West, Florida. So, Key West, Florida. That brings me to the Navy. So, initially, the Navy had a really strong presence in Key West, but the late 1960s, they started to kind of scale the operation back. So, this really affected the economy, right? Because the whole economy of Key West initially was built around the Navy bases there. So everyone was kind of hurting because of this. Everyone needed some extra cash. So this being it was already a drug smuggling hotspot, right? And the drug scene in Key West was getting kind of out of control since the economy was hurt by the departure of a lot of the Navy presence there. So you know how it usually goes. Places in poverty, or you know how it usually goes. Economic hurt and drug use, definitely, they go hand in hand. So everyone was trying to find some way to make some extra cash, and drug dealing was basically the ready-made way to do that. And so old Bum Farto, he wasn't above dipping into the dark arts there. So he started selling drugs. But he was like really low down on the chain. He had like a couple people, I think, answering to him. Maybe like one sad guy, like a Shaggy type character from Scooby-Doo. But he was like basically as close to the bottom as you can get. So he's having a good time. He's making a little bit of side money. He's the fire chief. He's out there probably blowing all his money on more gold, red suits and stuff. But meanwhile, the local government was really trying to do something about the drug issue. So they launched this huge sting operation called Operation Conch. And, I don't know, it's kind of a funny name. I know conch is a shellfish thing, but whatever. It's just conch. They could have picked a better name, I'm saying. Like, what about Operation, I don't know, Cobra or something? It's probably been taken, I imagine. Anyway, so Operation Conch is launched. It's this huge undercover sting operation. And so they finally found somebody. They found basically one of the lowest rungs of the drug dealer ladder. It was this guy named Titus Walters. And he immediately flipped, and he was like, I'll talk, whatever, I'll do whatever you want. And so he started giving up names. The first name he gave up was old Bum Farto. So basically his undercover cop that was assigned to Titus Walters was this guy named Larry Dollar, which is just, I can't even get into that name. I could say a lot of stuff about that name, but this is radio after all. So him and Larry Dollar, they devised this plan. Officer Dollar was like, I'm your cousin, buddy. Just tell me tell Bum Farto I'm your cousin. And I'm looking for, a little bit of product. So he posed that as his cousin. He talked to old Mr. Farto, and he's like, can you get me something? And Bum was like, yeah, sure, whatever. This cop was like, well, I don't have any money, but I have a bunch of jewelry, which I don't know why they did it this way. I think it was just like a jab at Bum Farto's love of jewelry, because he like really jumped on it. He was like, oh, perfect. I was going to spend it all on jewelry anyway. So what's just cut out the middleman. So Bum Farto, he took the jewelry and he's like, yeah, I'll get it to you later. And basically he told this cop, I got to talk to my higher up guy. And it turns out his boss was the son of the police chief, a guy named Manny James. And so this cop was like, oh boy, we got a real high roller here, the son of the police chief, who I guess had, used some insider knowledge to climb the rungs of the drug dealing trade. But turns out Manny was on vacation. So Bum Farto, he basically ran this undercover cop Larry Dollar around for like weeks and was like, yeah, I'm talking to my guy. I'll get it to you. I'll get it to you. And then, so that's all of that's going on. He's dragging this cop around, playing some Jedi mind tricks. Meanwhile, there was about 30 people, drug dealers, who had been indicted in Operation Conch. So they were waiting, to actually arrest. They were supposed to be waiting to actually arrest anyone, so they wouldn't blow the whole cover. But somewhere along the way, this guy named Francis was being approached by an undercover cop. And Francis realized something was off, I think. So he freaked out, tried to run away or kill the guy or something. So he had to be arrested immediately, like on the spot. So he got put in jail temporarily before he could pay bail. And he was like, someone's talking. So he immediately thought of Titus Walters. Titus Walters, because I guess, I don't know, it must have been kind of obvious that he would become a rat, because he just immediately was like, that's the guy. So he ended up paying bail, getting out, and he actually killed Titus by injecting him with Drano and watching him die. This is crazy. So he tied him up, injected him with Drano on his back porch, and he just apparently just sat there and like smoked cigarettes and watched him die, which is just, it seems a bit intense. I don't know, man. So this was very bad for Operation Conch, because their one informant was no longer around, which would make all of the actual charges a lot more difficult, because they had no one to actually testify. So they went to the next weakest link, or who they thought the next weakest link would be, Bum Farto. So basically, all of this happens. Titus gets killed. But basically, right at that moment, Bum Farto, he talks to his guy, Manny James, on vacation, and he's like, okay, I can get you the drugs. Let's meet at the fire station. So they end up meeting. The deal goes down. A couple days later, Officer Larry Dollar, in disguise, I imagine wearing like a fake beard that's like kind of peeling off. Just a horrible disguise. He meets and he's like, yeah, stuff was good. Can you get me more? Like a lot more. So Bum Farto is like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. So the deal was done. Everything was set in motion. It was time to actually bust everyone they had had their eye on in Operation Conch. So the deal was set to go down in 2 days. So in the meantime, dozens of cops rented a motel in Key West. And I don't know why they did this. I guess they had to, but they dressed up as karate students. And they said they were just in town for a big karate tournament or something. Which is, come on, what is this? What is this horrible made-for-TV movie I'm watching in my brain right now? A bunch of karate cops? Karate Cop? No way. I'm not watching that movie. I'm blowing right past that. I'm going to, I don't know, to watch Pawn Stars or something more fun. Anyway, so these karate cops, they scoop up Bum Farto. He was one of the first guys, so he is basically leaving his house to go to work. So they catch him. He's dressed to the nines, as he was every single day, in his red suit. So they snatched him up. And meanwhile, they're getting a bunch of the other people up. Basically, all the low-level drug dealers in Key West, they had been snatching him up. So they thought they had it made. They were like, okay, these guys are all going to talk, but no one was talking. They were all extremely tight-lipped. No one was giving up any information. None of these people they had arrested. So this was a problem for them, because they were like, well, Bum Farto, we don't really have any evidence we don't have any hard evidence he was actually going to make this massive deal with this cop. So basically all they could get him on was a really, really minor drug dealing charge. And he also had 2 sawed-off shotguns in his house that they found when they arrested him, which is just, I don't know. I'm not surprised at all. I can easily imagine this guy in a red suit with a giant chain, his sunglasses inside, The last thing you ever see is this man standing over you, pointing a sawed-off shotgun at you. And I don't know. He has to have some kind of catchphrase or something. I'll let you guys think of that. Imagine that, but yeah. Anyway, so basically they couldn't really get Mr. Bum Farto on anything too serious. So he was basically easily able to pay his bail. A misdemeanor and a felony. So not too bad. Bum apparently had a lot of cash laying around, so he paid bail. He had his sentencing date a couple weeks down the road. Now, this is February of 1976 when all this goes down. So, this is when Bum Farto begins to vanish off the face of the earth. Basically, the day after he gets out on bail, he tells his wife, Esther, he's like, I'm going to Miami. I'll be back in 2 days. Don't you worry about it, baby. And she's like, okay, sure. 2 weeks goes by. No sign of old Bum Farto. He's still going to Miami, quote unquote, unquote, unquote. So finally, after 2 weeks, Esther calls the cops and she's like, my husband, I forgot to mention, yeah, I know he has like a bunch of legal issues and you're going to need him to show up in court sometime soon. But yeah, he's been gone for 2 weeks. I forgot to tell you guys. So yeah, Esther, you're a real one. That's true love right there. Cover up for your partner's mild drug offenses. That's how you know a marriage is going to last. Although this probably didn't last because they never saw each other again. But whatever. They're spiritually married. So they're like, oh God, really, Bum? He vanished? Wow, I had no idea he was going to do that. They should have known he was going to do something. So they ended up launching this huge manhunt. And basically, they were never able to find anything. The last trace of Bum Farto they ever found was his discarded rental car in Miami's Little Havana district, which was, of course, bright red, just like his clothes. So they basically found this car like in some back alleyway. And they had this ongoing manhunt. They never found any trace of him ever again. He completely vanished off planet Earth. And in 1986, he was declared legally dead so his wife could collect his pension and stuff. Because amazingly, he still had a pension even after getting busted for selling drugs. He was briefly fired from being a fire chief, but then somebody was like, no, he needs to have a job because, he had some friends in high places. So yeah, Bum Farto, he was just gone with the wind. And I don't know, I think it's an oddly inspiring story. I mean, who knows what this guy was doing behind closed doors? I can't imagine he was any type of angel. I'm sure he has some kind of crimes against humanities under his belt, but to be honest, I have some level of sympathy for Bum Farto. I think he was just kind of a mildly cunning local politician who he liked to live on the wild side. I think he was a bit of an adrenaline junkie, as you can see by him sneaking onto the fire engine when he was 10. So, yes, this is the unsolved mystery of Bum Farto. Nobody knows where he went. Some people think that he might have been killed by his crime boss or whatever, but I don't think so. I think he just probably caught a plane somewhere, lived out his life to the very end, living on the lam somewhere in, I don't know, Colombia or something, let's say. So yeah, that's the story of old man Joseph Bum Farto.